All
right, so in the month of May, he's going to try some people out that are clients at South Sacramento Pride.
Microphone. Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call to order the Regional Transit Board meeting for Monday, April 24th, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Budge? Here. Director Hansen? Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hume?
Here.
Director Jennings?
Here.
Director Kennedy?
Here.
Director Miller?
Here.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier?
Here.
Director Cerna?
Here.
Chair Morin.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 100 votes. This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and will be streamed live on RT's website. Tonight's meeting will air on Wednesday, April 26th at 6 o'clock p.m. and replayed on Monday, April 30th at noon on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. And a note, if we could, once after we have the pledge, staff would like to move item number 5 up prior to item number 4 if the board concurs.
Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and so thank you for the suggestion on the movement of the agenda item. So do we need a motion on that then?
Yes, please. Move approval.
Okay, so moved by Director Jennings, seconded by Director Budge. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes.
Okay, so item 5 will occur, a recognition of some employees there. It'll occur right after consent. So with that, next item, please.
Public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
Okay, so we have a number of folks wishing to address the board. We'll start off with Mike Barnbaum. Mike, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Morin and members of the board. There's been a lot going on since the last transit board meeting here. So without further ado, here's the update. On Wednesday, April 5th, the Roseville City Council approved the financing and construction package for the Lewis Orlando Transfer Point Reconstruction Project. This will make an enhanced transit center at the corner of Lewis and Orlando at the Citrus Heights, Roseville, City Line, Sacramento, Placer, County Line. During the construction, which is expected to go from Monday, May 1st through Friday, September 30th, a temporary transfer point will be in effect at the corner of Auburn Boulevard and Auburn Oaks Court in the city of Citrus Heights. Riders who use Roseville Transit's Route A, B, and R, Placer County Transit Route 10, and Sacramento Regional Transit District's Route 21, 93, and 103 will be impacted directly over the course of this 5-month construction period. We were asked by the Roseville Alternative Transportation Division at their Transportation Commission meeting last week to help with outreach here in Sacramento about this, and we gladly told them we'd provide assistance for that. On April 12th, the Elk Grove City Council unanimously approved the comprehensive transit analysis, which will reduce service 7.6%, go from a hub and spoke system to a grid system in the city of Elk Grove, and also eliminate Sunday holiday service altogether. The service changes are expected to take effect on October 29th. One highlight of them as well will be the reduction of reverse commute trips from the existing 22 down to just 8 reverse commute trips. And last but not least, the Yolo County Transportation District, in partnership with the city of West Sacramento, is reviewing the Ziggurat Shuttle, the Y Shuttle, and the local service within West Sacramento to streamline service to create a downtown shuttle. A lengthy item was at the West Sacramento City Council meeting last Wednesday, and a public hearing is expected to go before the YOLO board on May 8th, impacting service in downtown. With that, I'd, in closing, ask that on May 8th, that I be excused from your board meeting and then report out on May 22nd what action took place, so you will know what happened, and that should have service changes effective July 30th.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Mike. Thanks for watching that for us. Next, W. Glover, and followed by W. Glover is Sarah Kerber. Is W here? Mr. Glover? There. Good evening.
Good evening. I wanted to speak and ask that the regional transit shift to a fare, free transit system. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah. Following Sarah will be Jeffrey Tardagia, and after Jeffrey is Cheryl Busby. Good evening, Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kerber. I'm a transit rider and a member of board member of Organized Sacramento and a SAC True member. SAC True is a member-run union that just started in April of transit riders organizing for better public transit in our local system. At a recent SAC True meeting, we discussed what Title VI is. We know that you guys are approving at the next meeting some Title VI programming updates, so we wanted to learn what Title VI was and help our members learn what Title VI is. And we're working on training materials to help inform our members. And we sent in a public comment today that I believe I sent all of you. And so at our last meeting, we discussed the RT Title VI update and composed a letter and some issues that we wanted to address. And we wanted to encourage RT to ensure that all members of the board and staff receive additional training on Title VI compliance and ensure that riders receive equitable access to services. We want RT's standard of compliance to be do service and program changes positively benefit all riders without excluding riders who do not have the means to take advantage of the benefits. One issue that we wanted to highlight is free transfers. A benefit that we lost in our transit system in 2009 during the Great Recession, and one that many riders would like to see come back. And I see it in this handout that you guys provided as one of your goals, so that's great news. Tonight you'll be taking a vote on supporting providing free transfers or unlimited boardings for 90 minutes for mobile fares only. And while the staff analysis found that there would be no disparate impacts on vulnerable communities from these programs, it did note that many transit riders are ineligible to participate in these changes because they do not own a smartphone, cannot access the app in languages other than English, and do not own a credit card necessary to purchase and use the benefits. So we would urge RT to make sure that all benefits are available to all riders, regardless of socioeconomic status or language barriers. And we would like to ask you to consider bringing back free transfers for all fares, not just mobile-only fares. So we look forward to working with you on this, and if you have any questions about SACTRU, please check out our website, sactru.org, or talk to one of our members, and thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Jeffrey. Following Jeffrey is Cheryl Busby. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Good evening, Board. The first thing, Henry doesn't want to be thanked, but there was a meeting last Tuesday dealing with the UCLA and UCC program discussing about the loss of ridership in public transportation. And for the first time this year, I saw a number of RT people, from Laura Hand to James Drake to several other individuals there, which I haven't seen before when these type of meetings have occurred. So I thank you for that. We didn't get questions answered, but I think it might inspire some new talk and understanding new developments. Now I want to turn around and, should we say, be 4 months, and I've heard that the problem is a power surge that occurs, but there is a Connect card terminal at Cathedral that for more than a month, when you, should we say, touch it, do anything with it, it reboots and it shows what's going on as far as coding through there. It's something I'm told now has been pulled, but I speak of planning and communication of saying, hey, somehow that didn't get clear, that's why I was sent pictures and, sent emails. And we'll say to you, emails don't always answer the question and say, better transportation, better communication is my desire, what I strive for and need. I'm still considering whether in August we'll go down to San Jose and see, because that was the first talk was about the big changes. And tomorrow morning I'll go over to the same group where they will be discussing about the electrification. The other thing I will offer is thank you, Don Natoli, for, should we say, last board meeting, bringing to the public's attention the issues going with, because I would say construction and making it realize that, you guys are asking questions. That, I think, is important for board members to do, especially when you don't know or have the answer. So anyway, there's more, but we just want to settle with Steve. I'm still looking forward to a meeting with you for answering some questions. Again, haven't had it. And Henry, you're on my list too, because we have not this year met to discuss the other things. And Pat, yes, I'm glad to hear the 7%. Unfortunately, that sounds like if you're telling me that you're no longer going to have the reverse commute up here, that it sounds like you're not going to really need bigger E-Trans signs to provide the means of knowing where, other than the electronic map. The last thing in my 20 seconds is Friday I used cash. That meant all I could do was ride from one point to the other. Any 90-minute thing I have no way of utilizing. I'm trying to get my Connect card recharged, and next month we'll use the brand new system. And lastly, at Archive Plaza, a brand new Connect card used it, and they were delighted using it as cash.
All right, thanks, Jeffrey.
Hey, Jeffrey, if you want to meet with me, I haven't seen any contact from my office, but if you've submitted a schedule request, just email me, and we'll try to get that scheduled. That's the best way to get me.
All right, Cheryl Busby, is Cheryl here? And after Cheryl is Tim Ortiz.
Hello, good evening, Chair, Warren, and Board. So first of all, I'd like to thank Rick Jennings for personally reaching out and contacting Ms. Johnson over in Oak Park, and she appreciated that the bus stop was rebuilt out there, and it's looking good. Also, moving forward with the business plans that you have for the future of Sacramento, I hope that you will engage with local vendors. You had an opportunity to create a new linen contract, and you went with somebody who's a multinational corporation based in Wilmington, Massachusetts, instead of a California organization like Sunset Linen or Mission Linen. So I'm curious to know why you went outside of California when you said that you were about supporting the local communities. And this has been a great experience to watch this board, and I thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming out, Cheryl. Is it Tim Ortiz? Oh, no, I don't like that jersey.
Hello, good evening,
Uh,
Council.
Director Jennings likes your Patriots jersy.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, I got this in the
That's not
in
one of the
the-
missing ones, is it? That wasn't the one with.
No, not at all. Well, you know, I don't know. It could be. You know, no, it isn't. But in any case, I was at a local convenience store, and I seen this was back in December after the season had ended, but before the Super Bowl had started, and I picked up the jersey, and you know, it turned out it was a good decision. It makes me look smart, you know, because they ended up winning. So, in any case, yeah. Nice to see you, Brother Jeffrey. And so, yes, hello. In any case, just wanted to give appreciation and thanks for everything that the council has been doing and working on. You know, out in the community, I can see a lot of great improvements taking place. A lot of definitely noticeable better. I've been just noticing a lot of great things out there, especially pertaining to the RT and a lot of the different treatment or behavior attitudes. You know, the treatment of a lot of the different staff members because of a lot of the different changes that are taking place inside. So I noticed them; they're great, and I just want to continue to just give appreciation and thanks to everybody and for everything, and just looking forward and to what is going to be coming next. So. Just thankful for that. I just wanted to extend my appreciation to the council.
Thanks for coming out, Tim. And
thank you once again. God
appreciate
bless.
you recognizing all the system improvements.
Yes.
Working hard on that.
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes business from the floor. We'll move on to consent.
Consent calendar items 1 through 3, noting that you have speakers on item 2 and 3.
Okay, so with that, why don't we just, I'll entertain a motion unless there's questions or comment on consent item 1.
Move approval.
Okay, moved by Director Budge, seconded by Director Hansen. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes.
Okay, item 2.
Item number 2, resolution authorizing request for proposals for streetcar vehicle procurement. And both Daryl and Neil, I believe, are here to answer your questions, if any, after the speakers.
Very good. And first is Russell Rawlings, and after Russell is Helen. So if we can, thanks Adam for getting the mic moved.
Mr. Chair, is it possible to do 2 and 3 together since I assume some of the same issues?
Let's see here, 3. Yes, we might as well do that. So could you read item 3 for us?
Absolutely. Item number 3, resolution
Thanks, Jane.
authorizing release of a request for proposals for streetcar vehicle maintenance and service facility design services.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Russell.
Good evening, Board. Yes, I realize that this evening we are looking for proposals, so I am just going to remind the Board, though, that it's important that as we look at this project, that we realize that there are immediate concerns and that the restoral of services that were promised in 2009 should take priority over all of these changes. And, I would caution against the Board's eagerness with which to spend SB1 funds on streetcar. But I look forward to seeing some proposals come in and see just what the costs associated with developing streetcar would be. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. So after Russell is Helen, and Helen, you had a request on items 2 and 3. So if you want to just summarize both of those.
My name is Helen O'Connell. I'm part of the RT MAC board. I'm also part of Dogfight Disability Organizing Group for Initiating Total Equality and the True Transit Riders Union. I think that the proposal for the streetcar should be brought in front of the MAC because they don't know what type of cars they're going to get or whether they're going to get low floors all the way through or just 50%. And my humble opinion, I think low floors all the way through would be beneficial to the system instead of just 50%. That way, anybody that needs to ride the streetcar could ride it. I have questions on the proposal for the maintenance and service facility. Is it going to be housed on RT property that is already RT property, or do we need to go out for bid for that? And how are we going to fund the maintenance and the building of the facility for the streetcar, since we're partners with West Sac? Thank you.
Great, thanks, Helen. So we'll get answers to those questions. Can we get? Yeah. So you can chime in on the low floor.
Well, I actually wanted to respond to both of them really quick. I'm Director Hanson. I represent Central City, and I'm on the streetcar steering committee with Director Harris and some other folks. We have a meeting this Wednesday, actually, at SACOG, and I'd invite you to come at 10:30 and give your comments there. Just to Russell's comments first, none of the money that's flowing through RT here is money that's available to RT for anything else other than streetcar. It's funded by the cities and by the federal government for this particular project. So if we did have funds that were available to RT, I would say I absolutely agree with you, Russell. Secondly, the project's owned by the two cities, and RT is our sort of project manager we've hired to do the work. So I know it's a little bit weird that the two cities are hiring RT to do this rather than doing it themselves, but this is where our expertise lies to do rail projects. It's here at RT, and that's who the federal government feels the most comfortable having around to build the system. We've been talking a lot about the vehicle procurement over the last few years. I feel very strongly we should do as much low floor as we can. I'd like to see 100% like you. I think the way that the specifications have to be written, and again, you can come to our meeting with the technical team on Wednesday at SACOG, but there's a range. Otherwise, if we specify a certain criteria, that will exclude certain vendors from being able to apply, and I think the federal government looks badly at those kind of things. So we have a little bit of flexibility, but the goal of the project team is to have 80 to 100% low floor. 50% is not really our objective. So I agree with you, and we'll hopefully have cars that are very accessible. And if we can bring it to the MAC, I think that would be a great thing. We can ask SACOG, RT, and others to come and present. But the goal is to roll right on and right off. No ramps. Curb access should be much better than the mini-high system that we have now. And my goal, and I think the board probably will take this up at some point, is to see our whole system modernized with low-floor cars. Get rid of the mini-highs and have much more accessible vehicles.
Yep. Thanks, Steve. Director Antoli?
Yeah, I have a question for Henry.
And I forgot to make the motion to approve both items. Sorry, Don.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. A question for Henry or for one of the staff people. In the update that we get on the streetcar project, the February update showed, or at least outlined in one of the bullet points on page 16, said that they're working with RT staff to discuss Prop 1A funding. If I recall, it's about $25 million. And it says, anticipate going to the RT board for approval of Proposition 1A funds in May 2017. Well, May is just around the corner. So I guess my question is that coming to us, recognizing that we're getting reimbursed for some of the service we're providing, as Member Hanson accurately pointed out? But I guess when is it this board will actually have that discussion? Because those are monies that are available to RT that we would have to dedicate to this project, and that is a decision I trust that this board is going to have to make at some juncture. It sounds like it's just weeks off, if not sooner.
Yes, we plan to bring to board in May 22nd.
Okay. May 27th?
22nd.
22nd, okay.
That's our plan right now.
And Henry, what would that encompass? Then you're basically asking for a commitment from this body for 1A funds for the project?
We're still working on details with the regional partners, and we have not have the final package yet. But when on May 22nd, a week from that, you will say the details.
And our Prop 1A money is available for other things at the district, other,
Yeah, that money
priorities we
is
have?
flexible.
That's flexible money.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll save the discussion for then. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, comments from directors? And so I guess one other question that was asked by Helen was, Neil or Henry, is I guess the maintenance facility, is that being proposed to be on regional transit property? Was that what you asked, Helen?
No, that's not actually.
Okay,
no,
okay.
It's a new.
So yes, so no.
Yeah.
Okay. Be procured separately. Okay, so I'll go ahead and second Director Hansen's motion on resolutions 2 and 3 under consent. So with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes. Next, item number 5, introduction of special guest. Resolution in front of you to be approved, commending Stephen Anderson, presented by Alva Carrasco, our relatively new Deputy Chief Operating Officer.
So before we get started, let's go ahead and entertain a motion to
Move the resolution.
So
Second.
Moved by Director Hume, seconded by Director Budge. All in favor, signify by saying aloud aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes.
Thank you, wandering clerk.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening, Board of Directors. I'm very honored to be given this opportunity to present this wonderful resolution that you just approved to Mr. Stephen Anderson. Mr. Anderson was hired in 1975 as a bus service worker who in 79 was promoted to mechanic. He has worked most of his career on the midnight shift. He spent his nights making sure the fleet was ready for morning pullout, even though he had the seniority to move to day shift. Steve is known for mentoring coworkers and helping new employees acclimate. He got along with everybody and was always there to offer help to anyone who needed it. Steve would postpone his own break time to answer questions or make minor repairs requested by operators during the morning pullout, and he never complained. Steve's work ethic, loyalty, and dedication to RT will be sorely missed by the entire RT team. And a side note, Mr. Anderson's father and uncle were both bus operators at RT.
And it's a 43 years service, right?
41 years.
41 plus, yeah.
And so our special resolution reads in part, whereas Stephen Anderson has faithfully served the best interests of the district as a valued member of the bus maintenance team, whereas Stephen Anderson retired from the Sacramento Regional Transit District on April 1st, 2017, now therefore be it hereby resolved as follows, that the Board of Directors does hereby express its appreciation of the entire staff of RT for the support and dedication that Stephen Anderson has provided during his 41-plus years of service, that the Board of Directors does hereby wish Stephen Anderson a long and happy retirement. Congratulations, Mr. Anderson.
And guess what? Speech.
Wow, I wasn't expecting all this. I mean, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And first thing I want to thank Albert, Matt, and the whole crew over there on the shop side. Wonderful, man. It was good working with the whole crew and everything. And I tell you, it don't seem like I've been here 41 years. I'll be honest about it. The time go by so fast, but I want to thank you guys for everything. Please continue to help support the shop. Them guys do a great job over there, seriously. They really do. And they really care for the people and everything. So, but I want to thank you guys so much for this. Like I said, I wasn't expecting all this. So thanks a lot, and just keep on doing a good job.
Thank you so much, Stephen. So next, are we recognizing a few other folks here?
We are under
Okay.
the general manager's report.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and the public. Thanks to Stephen for your dedication and long-time service. Previously, actually we had 8 employees who have retired recently, have served RT for 40 or more years. Currently, there are 5 employees that have 38 years or more service who are nearing the 40 years mark. We're going to recognize them separately. However, recently the Labor Relations Department reviewed the service award program and found that there was a need to enhance the public acknowledgement aspect of the program. Therefore, starting with tonight's board meeting and on a quarterly basis, we will publicly recognize employees that have 20 years or more of service. Today, we have about 10 recipients for this award, 4 award recipients here, and 5 or 6 more that are not here today for the working-related reasons. And the 4 recipients who are here, Gerard Alexander, our transportation supervisor, Anthony Montoya, light rail vehicle technician. Is Antonio here? Brenda Lee, transportation supervisor. Daniel Talamontes, light rail assistant mechanicals. And we have Joe Noble, Timothy Kent, Florina Golden, Joe Lindsay, Robert Bryan, and Laura Barnett, who are not here. So,
There you go. That's easy. Let's see his birthday. Yes.
You guys want to make like a little semicircle? That would be awesome. Be a little tighter in. I'm going to take a few pictures. Ready? Congratulations.
Tonight, I would like to specifically brief board on just one topic. Normally, I brief a couple, 5 or different topics. Today, just one: the rideship. Last month, the Sacramento Bee published an article called "Can Smarter Bus Route Help Save Regional Transit?" The article pointed out that the ridership had dropped noticeably in most major transit systems across the nation, including LA and New York. Transit systems that had ridership increase normally add the overnight service on popular routes, redesigned bus networks, expanded weekend and night service, launched new routes, and cut no ridership routes while increased frequencies on others. So far, SAC-RT has already made some changes or significant changes to improve the customer experience on safety, cleanliness, and convenience. But that is not good enough. Staff is looking at additional initiatives to increase ridership and bring back the occasional riders. Ideas to increase ridership, such as bringing back free transfers, distance-based fare, and bus feeder routes to light rail are just a fair ideas. I just want a specific comment on a couple of audience mentioned the free transfer may we may leave some potential riders cannot enjoy this benefit, but actually, if you look at our later on, Brent is going to explain how that works. Right now, 80% of riders have means to enjoy the free rides, the free transfers. Only 20% of cash-paying customers cannot enjoy that because of the system cannot accommodate that. However, today we're going to ask board to approve the collect card. If you use collect cards, you can use your cash to buy collect car, and the collect car will allow you to ride free. So that 20% of cash-paying customers will have a mean to have a free transfers. So very much, it's not as a cash-paying customer is willing to get a free collect car, then you don't have any problem. Just want to explain that a little bit. Like many other transit agencies in the nation, RT has been experiencing decline ridership in last 10 years. Two primary reasons for the decline in ridership. First, unlike other systems, we can see a direct correlation in the drop of ridership as a result of service cut during the recession period, or about 10 years ago. We cut our service by approximately 25%, which had a ripping effect on our ridership. Our ridership dropped from 35 million in 2007 to 25 million in 2016, a close to 29% drop. The service cut 10 years ago might have accounted for 25% of ridership decline because we cut 25% of service. Another 4% of drop of ridership can be contributed to sustained low gas price and other factors. Second reason for the ridership decline is the recent changes we have made to improve RT's physical health and customer service, such as hiring 25 transit agents to improve the fare collection efforts, which result in a steady decline of long-paying riders. And our fare evasion rate dropped from 15 to 20% last year to average right now only 5%. Plus, on July 1st, last year, we increased the fares by 10%, resulting in additional ridership deflection, but we believe this should be a temporary effect. So two reasons caused our ridership drop. To stop or reverse this trend, it will take some concrete corrective actions, such as route optimization, and other actions, and also some investment in RT. As we mentioned before, compared to other similar systems or similar regions, such as Portland, Seattle, San Diego, we receive 5 times less local funding. Currently, we are working with regional stakeholders such as elected officials, business leaders, community advocates to seek additional local funding to try to make RT a modern and competitive transit system. If we can receive some additional local funds, some might be used to fix it first projects like light rail vehicles replacement. Some might be used for light rail extension, but we'd really like to use some of this money to improve, to add back the 25% of service cut we did 10 years ago. We heard that is the most urgent, or we heard most the request are related to this. And our upcoming route optimization study will tell us how to best add this service back in a most productive way. One point of clarification, our upcoming route optimization study has two versions. The first version is to optimize the existing routes within our current financial constraints. If we want to add those cut service back, we need more funding to do so, which is the second or expanded version of route optimization study. And also we would like to improve the service frequencies, which remains a #1 convenient issue. Currently, out of 69 bus routes, we only have 6 routes with 15 minutes frequency, a few routes with half-hour frequencies, and majority of the routes are 1 hour frequency. And our riders ask us to at least make half of the bus routes to have 15 minutes frequency, and to do that, we will have to incur some significant more operating cost. So, while we are actively promoting our new initiatives and the new SAC-RT, and we are not stopped from trying new things or work within our means to encourage new riders to try RT service and existing riders to ride more. So today, we will announce a plan to bring back free transfers to those riders used collect car immediately. The collect car is planned to roll out system-wide next month. So if you are cash-paying customers, you will have a means to ride, to have a free transfer within 90 minutes. Lack of transferability has been a major complaint of our customers, and our riders knew that we are an intermodal system that requires transfers between bus and rail. So giving customers the ability to ride free between two systems will be a great benefit to riders. And also today, we will ask the board to grant me with authorization to provide a limited number of free ride days to students, individuals with disabilities, and seniors over the next 12 months. Many of these riders do not have transportation options or limited transportation options, and it is our responsibility or liability to provide them with more options to ride RT. And we hope that by attracting new riders, it should begin to reverse the downward trend in ridership and put RT in a position to be a preferred mobility choice in the region. We understand by offering free transfers within 90 minutes and some free ride days, RT will incur some fare loss, and we will strive to further improve our efficiency and cut operating costs to offset this loss. That concludes my report today. I would love to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, any quick questions for Henry? Still have, I guess, is Brent going to go?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Good evening, Chair Moore and members of the board. So we're going to jump into the financial numbers for March. So last month I brought the February numbers, and February numbers were still really good. As you can see, the March numbers are not looking good right now. Let me actually switch ahead here. So for March, total operating revenues came in at $12.7 million. and expenses came in at $13.5 million. So there's an operating loss for March of about $750,000. And there's three main reasons for that occurring. The first is fares. Fares came under budget by about $262,000. Federal revenues came in under budget about $439,000, and then salaries and fringe costs came in above budget about $242,000. So I'd like to start with talking about fares right off the bat. What we've done is we've been looking at fares each month, but the more months you have, the better idea you have of what's going on. So now we have 9 months of data since our fare increase, and we're able to look at that and kind of break it down. So over these past 9 months, you can see the first 6 months, fares were doing extremely well. We saw what we had estimated as a result of the fare increase compared to budget. Things were trending really well. What we started to see is in January, February, and March, fares started coming down. There's a couple reasons for that. And that's actually after excluding some one-time revenues, because what happened in March is we had a one-time revenue from Sac State, which made our numbers in their actual numbers for February good. But when you strip that away and you just look at the underlying fares, those 3 months, they started trending down. And what happened is, if you all recall, the storms that we had in January, February, and March had a big impact on our system. We had missed trips, we had some system outages, and we had a couple of stations on the Gold Line with that did not have access to 2 stations due to a non-RT vehicle damaging the signaling system. So then after we looked at that for the last 9 months, then we actually started looking at the last 3 months for this calendar year compared to the last 3 months for last calendar year. And actually we looked at 3 to 4 months, because what we've noticed is that typically in the months of March and April, our fare revenues tend to actually come down, and that's because you have spring break and students and commuters typically try to take a week or 2 off. And so you'll have a typical lull in March and April for fare revenues. So when we're coming into next month, we're still kind of anticipating that fares could be a little soft. Where we expect fares to kind of pick back up is in May. So I just wanted to bring that up. The next topic I want to talk about is federal revenues. So you'll see that when you look at from a budget to actual standpoint, you'll see that fare revenues came in about $2.4 million, and they were budgeted at $2.8 million. And the reason for this is I talked about this a little bit in February. We expected our 5307 revenues. We get a few revenue sources. We get 5307, 5337, and then we get JARC federal revenues, where our 5337 is what we refer to as our preventative maintenance revenues. Those, we got a decrease of about $439,000. That's making up the decrease right here. That represents 9 months of catch-up. So it's not just one bad month. It represents 9 months. And then in the next 3 months, we expect to receive about $151,000 less for those next 3 months. So this total category, we're anticipating at the end of the fiscal year, could be shy of budget by about $590,000. And the question is, why is this? And well, 3 years ago, MAP 21 came out, and that was a performance measurement that the federal government's put in place. At that time, there were some decisions to where there's proportional share of the 5307 gets divided amongst the region. RT slowly began getting a little bit less of that revenue. So to curb this decrease, RT's been working actually with SACOG staff and the other transit agencies. And we said, this is tough for us to absorb some federal losses. So what we're looking at is potentially a federal reimbursement for a lot of the Connect Card activities. And we know that SACOG is actually the lead on the Connect Card, but there's been a lot of staff time that has been used to test the system, a lot of other costs that have been used to test the system. And so there's some federal revenues out there that we're going to work with SACOG and these other transit agencies to seek. So we're hoping that of the $590,000, we could get potentially close to $400,000 of reimbursement for those costs. It's not set in stone, but that's something that we're working on to mitigate that. So I wanted to raise that to your attention. Sure. Then the last category I wanted to talk about is salary and fringe costs. As you recall, throughout these presentations that I bring, we had 1 month in January where we saw that the actuals came in a little bit worse than the budget, and that was because we budget basically on a straight line basis for salary and fringe, and the number of actual work days or vacation days kind of can impact that budget actual difference. Well, in March, there was 23 actual business days, and we straight line March from a budget standpoint for 22 days. So there's a little bit more days in the month of March, and that's part of the reason. The other reason is there were some labor agreements that we tightened up a few years ago where we required people to sell some of their sick and vacation balances. In the past, there was no limit on some of those. And so what we did is we tightened those up. And so what you'll see is in March, once a year, employees are allowed to sell their sick and vacation time. And that's a difficult one to manage from a budget standpoint because it's independent on people's needs and their sellback. So of that $224,000 variance, the majority of that is due to the sick and vacation sellback. So that makes sense because when you look at this from a budget to actual standpoint, again, I want to just point out when you look at year-to-date numbers, we're $890,000 in the positive on salary and fringe. So overall, it's still doing well. From a monthly standpoint, salaries and fringe is a little off compared to budget. So the last thing I want to cover is just in total. So the next thing we do, once we look at the budgetary numbers for March, we look at the year-to-date column, and you'll see we're still in the positive by about $1.5 million. And that's for the 9 months. You'll see there's more revenues than expenses. So that's a good sign. We're still in the positive. If you recall back in February, it was about $2.2 million, and so now we're down to about 1.5. But that being said, as we're making these decisions coming into the year-end numbers, we just want to make sure we stay on track and we control expenses as much as we can because we've got a good momentum going right now. We don't want that to end.
And we also freeze some vacant positions from hiring, so hopefully we can contain the cost.
Okay, other questions for Brent, Director Natoli?
I'm going to skip. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just quickly, Brent, back to the on the accident that caused the outage and didn't allow access to just 2 stations. Obviously, it was created by an accident which occurred. Are we able to claim against the insurance for lost revenues? Are we been able to document what it would have been a year ago or 3 months prior or seasonally or whatever, so we can claim and actually get, again, we obviously get paid for it. So where are we with that?
Yep, we are doing that. I'm going to probably turn this over to Tim because the first answer is yes, and then I'm going to have Tim provide us with some details.
Right. So there were 2 vehicles involved. There was a pilot vehicle that was leading an oversized load. That's what caused the accident. There's the parties have insurance. Our risk department's been working with the claims adjuster for that insurance company, providing them with all the data, not just the hard costs and the labor costs, but also a loss of revenue calculation.
What's the estimate on that, Tim?
The what?
What's the estimated loss of revenue for that?
We don't have the estimated loss of revenue yet. We're still working up those numbers. Right now, what we've given them to start working out is the hard cost, the cost of the relay case, the cost of the labor itself. Yeah.
I guess my point being that you may not get that claimed in this fiscal year, but you, at some point in time, will be able to go back and plug that in. So, I mean, you come up with a number and we settle out for that claim. So I think it'll be important to reflect that. Obviously, you do it in your update, but I think if that was a point in time where there was a loss and we do a recovery, that it ought to plug back in, even if we get the money in an ensuing fiscal year.
Yeah, yes, and we've had situations in the past where we've had theft or damages, and typically we have an other revenue source that we put this into claim adjustments.
Okay. So any idea on order of magnitude? Is it thousands? Is it tens of thousands of dollars in lost revenue? What's the ballpark?
That's a difficult one. We've had some situations in the past where we've had some ticket issues, where we've had a vendor who supplied tickets and there were some issues with the expiration dates, and so we'll put together some numbers for Tim. But I'm hesitant to give you a number now because I know it could change, and it's a difficult one to tie down. But I think what we can do is we can look at ridership trends, and we can look at how fares have been collected. And I would say anywhere from 100,000 to 150,000 a month is what I'd like to show, but I'd have to be able to support whatever I can.
Oh, you have to support that.
Yep.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Great.
Okay, the next slide is, and the next slides are pretty quick. I'm going to go through them, but this is just our typical performance measurements for fares. Again, we're under budget from a fiscal year 17 standpoint for the month of March. But when you look at it from just a minute, get my pointer out. When you look at it from this year to last year, again, we're exceeding last year's numbers. So that's a great trend. When you look at the fare box recovery, the same thing occurs. We're under budget because of revenues are down, expenses were up. But when you look at this year to last year and year to date, we're doing good. And then finally, when it comes to ridership, I know Henry talked a lot about ridership. We first looked at it from a revenue loss, and then we looked at it from a ridership loss, and we actually saw a couple of interesting trends. In July of 17, we did the fare increase. We know that some of the deflection, like Henry said, is coming from the fare increase, and then some of it is actually as a result of our fare inspection. What we did notice, though, is what we've been tracking is the AM and PM commuters to see what's going on with that trend. And what we noticed is in the first 6 months, July to December of 16, we saw commute riders did not change. In fact, they grew slightly, ever so slightly during that time frame. But then in January and February and March, we actually saw that dip. And again, I think it's because the storms, the outages that we had at the stations. But that's something that's important for us to track, commute versus non-commute riders, because that kind of gives you an idea of your base revenues. And then just with that, I want to say that, all the efforts that we're going to be doing over the next couple months, in making a change in ridership is kind of one of those slow changes that need to occur over time. We don't want to pull too many triggers where we make it a significant change, but we want to do something where we can start seeing an impact in ridership. So as we're kind of going through this, the future presentations, we'll always point out that we're going to seek additional ridership, but also look at it from a fiscal impact standpoint. So that concludes my presentation.
All right. Thanks, Brent. Any other questions for Brent? Okay, anything left on the general manager's report? Okay, so I do have a request to speak from the public on this, and then after that, I'll walk it back to any final director comments on the general manager's report. Let's see, Jeffrey Tartagia. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Good morning, board. Henry and Brett, I got more than 3 minutes of questions, but I will start it off at this. Henry, on the last Tuesday session, those questions indeed got brought up, and as you say, they don't know why particularly the last 3 years, ridership has gone down. They have pieces through there in things, so it's still in an evolutionary state of trying to figure out what's going on. But one of the things is the changing of transportation. What Uber and Light has changed in methodology, as you say, gas prices, and that's back to that report through there. But my big concern is back to for this board is planning. You have the Connect card that you're going to bring out. As your Connect card tester, I will tell you right now that I have, 5 days we're trying to get something back from customer advocacy, and that's less than 1,000 riders. When you gear up here, I don't see, and this is why the question I asked last, shall we say, meeting about the budget, where is going to be the proposal of what additional expenses you are going to have of having not only the Connect card for our ridership, but the other ridership agencies. Now, we probably will be getting reimbursed, but there is likewise going to be the lead time. And history has shown us before, and hopefully you've gathered, and this goes to Brett, has collected enough data to see what the impact of last year's changing in the Los Rios Fair for the summer reflects, because, as you say, May is going to be the last month that you're going to have full student fairs. You're going to be seeing, big dip in June. And again, what I will offer to you is for the Connect card is the staffing and the other costs are going to need to be increased to deal with now this increased transportation load, because particularly, the first few months, unless you've got tremendous documentation, knowing how to use it and the problems that do come up with it, cash, monthly, or whatever, through there. It should be in stages, not a full blast out, because there are different components and pieces to use it. As your Connect card tester, I can tell you that, and I can tell you one of the things that I've learned just recently is the fact that for the Connect card, you do not know how often it fails. It just isn't there being collected. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jeffrey. Let's see, any director comments on the general manager's report? Director Cerna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take this opportunity. I wasn't at the last board hearing, so I didn't have an opportunity to do it then. I want to do it now to publicly thank our general manager, Henry Lee, for working with me over the course of several months in the South Oak Park Fruit Ridge Pocket neighborhood to carefully assess the Route 68 line as it runs north-south through that neighborhood, roughly bounded by 14th Avenue on the north, Fruit Ridge Road on the south, MLK Boulevard on the west, and Stockton Boulevard on the east. As I noted in social media on April 7th, part of the reassessment of how we are and how we have decided to change the location of some bus stops and the nature of some bus stops. We had the installation of our first sheltered bus stop in that neighborhood at the Fruit Ridge Community Collaborative, formerly the Fruit Ridge Elementary School there, located on 44th and 23rd. And I made mention of it on social media, and I certainly didn't mean to belittle the import of having a sheltered stop at that location, but the response, quite frankly, that precipitated from those that paid attention to the post was fairly overwhelming. There was a lot of folks that, some of whom are here, Russell being one of them, who greatly expressed their great appreciation for the shelter. And in fact, it happened to be a day that later in that afternoon it happened to be raining. So just goes to show you that the writing public, those of us that we serve on this board, really do thank us when we do what I feel is the right thing. In this case, providing a sheltered stop in a stretch of a highly used route that doesn't enjoy those types of accommodations, or hasn't for some time. And so again, I just want to thank Henry for hearing me, taking to heart my advocacy on behalf of that part of my district, who were in desperate need of at least one sheltered stop there. We're not going to conclude our efforts by any means, but I think it's important that we do acknowledge our executive staff when they do listen to us and come through in a big way. So thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Any other questions, comments for Henry? All right, next item, please.
Item number 6, new business resolution, delegating authority to the general manager CEO to approve up to 10 free rides for seniors, individuals with disabilities, and students, presented by Brent Bernicker.
Okay, so well, this is one of our initiatives to try to bring back ridership to RT. I think if you recall, back in October of last year, we brought this concept forward with the G1C holders that had a ticket event holder. We authorized the board actually was able to authorize the GM to provide up to 10 free days for those riders, and we had a good success with that program. We had a lot of new riders out in the systems, a lot of people that were really thankful for that opportunity. So because of that, we decided we'd like to do a similar program for seniors, those with disabilities that are using fixed route services, and then K through 12 as well. So this issue paper is seeking board approval to allow at the GM discretion to seek up to 10 free rides for those individuals. From the fiscal impact section, you can see it is substantial money if we do all 10, but in the grand scheme of this is $100,000 compared to $31 million in revenue. So it is fairly small. So we're pretty comfortable with this not being too much of a high risk, but it's a big opportunity for us to go and reach new riders and just give people a chance to ride RT's system. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments?
Great, thanks, Brent. Sure. Any questions for Brent? Director Natoli?
Yeah, very quickly. Do we allow active military to ride for free currently?
We don't right now.
Could you consider adding them to the list? I think, again, trying to build ridership, folks who are serving this country, I think there's a security aspect, there's certainly recognition of their service to our community, to our country. A lot of those folks are, not on the high end of the pay scale, and so I don't know if you can do analysis around that, but I know we had a person that was here last summer who I think actually may have still been an active military or veteran, but I guess I asked that because, again, if you're going to reach out to this user group, it would seem to me that would make sense, and I think this system would prosper by having those folks on those days that you would designate, be given the same opportunity?
It's a good question. I think where we ran into this in the years past, we were struggling with fair revenues, which was tough, and we were looking at these discounts. So it wasn't the opportune time to take that. But some things that we considered about if it was active duty. And they were in uniform, it was a very small dollar amount. So that was something that was easy that we could do. But then I know there was some discussion about expanding it to veterans. And once it started getting bigger and bigger, it became a much larger impact. But I could tell you from active duty, it was a small fiscal impact. Okay.
Great. Director Miller?
I had the same thoughts as Director Mazzoli. And the first thing that came to mind is maybe something of a smaller scale, which would be on Veterans Day to allow veterans and active duty military to ride for free. But I think also the board might consider just adding veterans to this list in this issue.
Oh, for the just for the up to 10 rides, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that not necessarily being a uniform, but have your military ID card as your form of ID.
Right, okay.
I don't know if that's problematic.
I'm going to just check to see if do you remember some of this?
So while
okay, Casey was just informing. We also have a general manager's discretion to give free rides with comp tickets. So that's another mechanism that we can have if we don't want to use this. But again, it's up to the board's discretion.
Okay, so before we deliberate a little bit, any other Director Chenier?
Yeah, thanks, Brent. And I think it's a great idea. I think these are investments that we're making in our future with the community, both on an equity basis because of other things that we've done, and then going forward, really to expose convenience and safety and timeliness in what we're doing. So I want to move the item. I'll do it with proposed changes on the veterans, and I'm not sure how well you all can track this to see and evaluate the impact of it, but with direction that you give that your best shot as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll second that with the proposed changes.
Okay. So moved by Director Chenier, seconded by Director Jennings. Any other questions for Brent? I do have a member of the public wishing to speak on this. So Jeffrey?
Well, Board, I'm glad to hear some of you are thinking likewise as dates in time to suggest to the general manager. Because I spoke to the general manager a little before about saying, well, gee, for senior, there's going to be a senior day taking place at the Capitol in the month of May. You have other things for, indeed, the first day of, shall we say, community college that you have where they may not have it. You've covered about a couple of times when veterans and other, shall we say, dates through there. But again, as you offer is the expense from everything else. One of the other things that I was wanting that's not this, but is that 1, 2, 3, 4 on the Connect card. But we got to get the Connect card functioning and working so that you have the means of detailing and seeing some of this and perhaps doing this, offering this service in some means where you have the means of tracking it. This morning I got at Sacramento Valley Station where the Amtrak was what the little tickets that were used for riding bus number 30. And that's something, this is the question whether a free ticket is the way that you're going to use this. I do not know the methodology, but I'm assuming the general manager is going to figure out the methodology that perhaps offers you that mean that, Jay, you suggest of how you would track it to determine what in the world's going on and how it's utilized. I do not know that on the March Madness and the comp tickets that were offered, whether you have any idea whether it was more used on the Friday or the Sunday or what took place on that. It's maybe too news for that information, but the tool is there. The other one may be for other events. You have, I think, coming up a taco festival or something that's coming up soon, is getting people to events and, then, as you say, the ride home. Okay?
Thanks, Jeffrey. So again, just to recap then, so the interest the maker of the motion is to take the resolution as stated and add folks with military ID then? Simple enough, and Director Jennings is... Okay. All right, so with that, a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion passes at 100 votes.
Okay, next item, please.
Next item, item number 7, amending the fare structure and temporarily authorizing a Connect Card fare ticket. You have 2 resolutions before you. Resolution A, amending the fare structure to add a new mobile fare ticket, fare type, and redefine fare ticket. And B, resolution temporarily authorizing a Connect Card fare ticket.
Well, good to see you again, Brent.
All right. This is a lot of time up at the podium today. All right, so I'll do my best to try to simplify this issue paper. Just back in 2009, RT eliminated transfers, and that was in an effort to save in costs and remove those operational issues associated with giving out paper transfers. Some of those operational issues are if someone purchases a ticket, hands it to the bus operator, and is handed a transfer slip, that person can take that ticket and hand it to someone else, and it can kind of create an ability for someone to ride for free that it wasn't used for its intended purposes. So some of the things that we're thinking about when we did this issue paper is, from an operational standpoint, how do we bring back transfers, but make it effective for the individual user and not just for other people to use and deplete our fare revenues. So with the idea that RT is moving into a fully committed electronic fare system, which is the Connect Card and the mobile ticket system, that's why this issue paper got brought forward. We want to figure out a way to bring transfers back to those systems. So currently, right now, if you're a mobile app user, you have a temporary ticket that allows you 90 minutes to ride for 90 minutes. What we're doing in this issue paper is we're saying we'd like to convert that from a temporary basis to a permanent basis. And then in addition to that, we'd like to offer this effective on June 15th, when we do the full launch of the Connect Card. We'd like the individuals of the Connect Card to have that same capability as the mobile fare app users. Obviously, this would be on a temporary basis. We'd actually like to see the fiscal impact, and with Connect Card, we'll be able to actually start tracking how many people are using that, and so we can give you reports back on that, and we can actually then start extrapolating what kind of fare loss we had. We estimated it in the issue paper, but once we have some data, we could give you that information. The other thing to point out is when we do something like this on a temporary basis, a Title VI analysis has to be done before we can bring it back from a permanent basis. And then it sounds like members of the audience, as well as some prior board meetings, there's been an overall feedback that with the mobile app, there's been a lot of positive news about that, but a lot of people that don't have credit cards have voiced a concern that, I have a phone, but I don't have a credit card. How will that help me? Well, the new version of our mobile app that should come out around the August time frame at the latest, we're going to start working towards finding ways for those individuals to take their phones into our customer service area and and use their cash, hand it over to the clerk, and get a promotional code. And this is just in concept, and then they'll be able to load value onto their phone. That hasn't been done, but that's what we're doing on the mobile fare app. But in the meantime, we already have a Connect Card in there in place where we can actually start doing free transfers for those people. So the way I like to look at this is, if you're a Connect Card user, we are going to be pushing out beginning in June, over the next 6 months and maybe longer, we'll be giving free Connect Cards to those people that would like a Connect Card. So that kind of takes away the barrier that someone's not able to get that card. The next concern is with a Connect Card, if you don't have a bank account or a credit card, you're not going to be able to use that. Well, we've eliminated that issue by creating the solution that you can go to 1225 R Street and you can go up to the customer service counter and hand them your $5, your $10, whatever it may be, and they'll load the value onto that Connect Card so you can utilize the system. But we also realize just having one location isn't enough. So currently we have Rayleigh's out there that they're also going to be our distributor, and we're working with them to try to push out more availability for people to go to Rayleigh's and reload their cars. So the other thing that we've done is we've actually informally created a committee where we have a couple people from marketing, a person from planning, as well as Casey, and they're leading up a plan to to seek out expanding our outlets. We have approximately 180 outlets in the region that sell our media, and what we'd like to do is look at that list and see if we can start expanding that list and offering more Connect cards to different convenience stores, or looking at options where we don't target just Rayleigh's, but we look at other supermarkets. And if we can do that, then the people that are in an unbanked situation or don't have access to a credit card will be able to get that credit card, go into that convenience store and load it. So what we're trying to do is remove that hurdle that we're hearing, and at the same time we're trying to bring back this free transfer concept so that people will be able to enjoy the system and take multiple trips from a bus to rail and vice versa. And then while we're doing this, we always want to keep in mind operational costs and operational efficiencies while we're doing this. So therefore, staff recommends permanently adopting the 90-minute fare ticket on the mobile app and temporarily authorizing a 90-minute ticket on the Connect card that is valid for unlimited trips on bus and rail within that 90-minute time period.
Great.
Are there any questions?
So I do have a number of requests to speak on this item, but any questions for Brent before I get to members of the public here? Okay, thanks, Brent. Stand by. Okay, so Helen, let's start off with Helen O'Connell, so if we can get her a mic. And after Helen is Barbara Stanton.
Good evening. My name is Helen O'Connell. I'm part of the RT-MAC. I'm also part of Dogfight, Disability Organizing Group for Initiating Total Equality, and TRU, Transit Riders Union. The gentleman that just spoke answered a lot of questions that I did have for the Connect card fare ticket. I'm not sure that if you buy a monthly pass on a disabled Connect card that you'd be able to take advantage of the 90-minute window unless you buy individual days or ride tickets up to the $55 monthly pass, then maybe you could take advantage of the 90 minutes. But I don't think that the Connect card is written up so that it will give you the best day fare and the best month fare. So if you put $55 on the disabled card, you automatically get the monthly rate. I don't know if it's possible to get the best rate per day on the Connect card to be topped off at $55 for the monthly pass. I don't know if that's feasible or not. But it's also good that you're going to go to more outlets to get people to be able to put money on their cards, because like I'm going to have to go to 13th Street Station next week and get my money put on my Connect card that I just got last month. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Helen. We'll get an answer to you on your, or do you want to address that right now, Brent? Thanks.
I think great questions. I think maybe to start out, the first maybe point would be is if as a user you decide to, if you elect a monthly pass, the monthly pass, the 90-minute rule is not applicable. Once you have a monthly pass, you can ride unlimited for that entire month. The 90-minute window is actually for the single ride, the single ticket purchaser. So maybe to give you some comfort, if you do buy the monthly pass, everything's going to be fine. You'll be able to ride as you do. This is just to add more options for that single ride user that wants to transfer from one system to another, typically from a bus to a rail or rail to bus.
More about the occasional riders.
The occasional.
Not regular riders.
Yep. And then we do have a best fare. You brought up some other good points. We do have a best fare for people purchasing single tickets to convert to a daily pass. We have that. What we don't have yet is going from the number of daily passes to a monthly pass. That's a bigger topic that we're still exploring, but that's probably not on the forefront of our launch. We'll still look at that.
Okay, but yeah, it was a good question to see if there's a limiter as far as the monthly. So yeah, so kind of keep that in your mind as we go forward with some adjustments. Okay, so Barbara, Barbara, after Barbara is Russell Rawlings, and after Russell is Mike Barnwell. Evening, Barbara.
Good evening, Chair Moran and directors. Barbara Stanton, Ridership for the Masses. Chris Jensen and I, Chris is temporary executive director of resources for independent living, and I met with Henry and James on March 30th to discuss fare equity regarding the 90-minute time frame. And we may be wrong, but we were under the impression that all trips would be 90 minutes regarding of method of payment. We also understand that new buses have the capability of printing out a 90-minute ticket, and that would be transferable, from the old buses to the new buses. Therefore, all fare media would be transferable for 90 minutes, creating a fair and equitable experience for all riders. We feel that it is a burden on cash-paying riders at this time to have to take their Connect cards, if they use Connect cards, because not all riders are going to use Connect cards, to a service center and retailers. And those people who do not use the Connect card are going to be penalized because they will not get the 90 minutes that everybody else is afforded if they just use a single ticket ride. So we feel that's a little discriminating against a group of people. And what are you going to do with people who visit our city? Are you going to ask them to buy a Connect card in order to make single rides anyway? Because they will not be able to have the 90-minute time frame. And people who pay cash cannot have fares through the kiosks, so they are filtered through these other retail outlets. And it's good that you're going to increase the outlets. That's a good thing. We were all under the impression, Chris and I, Chris couldn't be here tonight, so I'm speaking for both of us. We were under the impression that this issue would first be presented to the board for discussion and then presented at a subsequent board meeting for action and not take action tonight. So we suggest that no action be taken tonight until a stakeholder process can be initiated and at the least be presented to the MAC, your Mobility Advisory Council, prior to any decision being made. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Russell. After Russell is Mike.
Thank you, Board. I apologize. I think I rushed through my comment earlier. My name's Russell Rawlings. I'm a resident of Oak Park, long time transit rider. I am transit dependent. So I am also a board member of Organized Sacramento and a founding member of the Sacramento Transit Riders Union, SAC-TRU. And we are deeply concerned about moving ahead with a fare structure that really is going to divide and confuse people. I know that the Connect card has been a long-going project. We're looking at over 5 years now for implementation. But we've now got the Connect card, cash, and a mobile fare app, all of which can be used to pay fare. And we're creating divisions and complication within that fare structure. And we would invite you all to just adopt the idea that fare is fair. I was very disturbed to hear that there's a notion that RT is somehow losing money from paper transfers. I would like to see data on that was an actual condition that was existing. I would say that you're just as likely to see people transfer transfers as you would be to see them transfer daily passes. It's just a ridiculous notion. I really don't think that you could hand off a 90-minute transfer to someone else to let them ride for free. So that is a completely invalid argument. This complicates our transit system for visitors. It complicates our transit system for those with cognitive disabilities. And moreover, I know that this is part of a Title VI, issue that it triggers a review. And I remember being in this very room about maybe a year and a half ago, talking about a very similar situation. And Title VI requires that all of you consider the communities that are impacted by these decisions. And I would highly encourage all of you to study this issue very well, because I can guarantee that a very strong case can be made that these digital divides that are being created impact those who have limited means the most. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. And after Russell is Mike.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you about this topic surrounding the Connect card and the fares. I would even make a suggestion to the recommendation. I know there's an outreach to go to more outlets. One thing, and this came from personal experience, when I have traveled to Seattle, there is no station at SeaTac or at the downtown King Street station to get an Orca card, as it is called up there. And you have to do without and ride the system with cash and not have the benefits of the transfers and amenities that folks around there that do have ability to get Orca cards. So in using that as an experiment and recognizing other municipalities and transit districts around the country, like LA Metro and a lot of the agencies in the Bay Area, don't have their tap card stations or clipper card stations up at transportation centers for access to these smart cards. Besides looking at the grocery stores, and that's a good start for the folks that are living here every day, have to get their food as a necessity to live. But I think, as one speaker said, what about the hundreds or thousands of people that are going to visit our region each year, whether it's on the Coast Starlight, the California Zephyr, the San Joaquin, the Capitol Corridor, or as a big press event from earlier this month, folks are going to visit starting in August, nonstop from Spokane and Long Beach. And that's a big plug for Sacramento. So I would like to see if there, perhaps the Committee of Marketing, Planning, and Finance, and perhaps a delegation of transit agency staff members and delegations of the transit boards around the region could outreach to Sacramento Valley Station and Sacramento International Airport, and perhaps be the first in the country to have staffed Connect Card stations at Terminal A, Terminal B, and at the downtown intermodal station, so that visitors coming in and out can have access before they even leave the terminals. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Okay, that concludes speakers from the public on this item. Any questions, comments from directors? Yeah, I guess I'll just, I understand the frustrations that this isn't perfect, but it certainly adds capability that we don't have now, is the way I view this. And to, for me to build in some reluctance to do this just because we can't solve everything. This is a big improvement. This is a response to complaints we've heard from the very people that were complaining about what we're about to do. So, this is, to me, iterative, and, we'll see how this works. But, believe me, our staff here is constantly responding, and, Russell and Helen, thanks for those comments, and Barbara, because we know we're not done. This is just another step in making this a little bit easier, and, I guess a little more optional as far as, people being able to take advantage of, bringing back really the transfer mentality here. So,
Mr. Chair.
So yeah, Director Budge.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This is a good beginning, and it may be a partial solution, but let's put this together and then modify it when we find that it needs modification. But I do completely agree with the comment that we should have the ability to purchase this at the train station, since that's the one place that we have interface between two different modes of transportation. And I have personally come in on the train and gone out and taken light rail out to Sunrise, so that would be a really good thing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Linda. Director Natoli?
Yeah, just a question. I certainly commend the work that's brought this to us this evening, and I intend to support it. But I guess my question is that we've had a number of stakeholders and folks that certainly come to our RT meetings, and I think are reflective of a broader segment and segments of the community. And it sounds like you've thought through a number of these things. I've talked at both the staff level, obviously, with some of the folks that have been here this evening, but having heard the suggestion, just some of the things that have come from the audience, again, obviously, even in your work, you haven't thought of it all. Nobody could. And so I guess my question is that if this is iterative, as the chair has said, and part of this is going to be permanent, so that's not going to be iterative, that's going to be permanent. The mobile app is what you're asking for, a very permanent, because reversing that is going to be costly, if not necessarily impossible, but certainly the way it was reflected in the staff report, that would be not easy to undo or to try to have some override. So recognizing, I think, the technology that's embedded there, but certainly this aspect of not discouraging nor disadvantaging folks that pay with cash. I mean, we may be getting to a cashless society, but we're not there yet. And certainly from the standpoint of folks, whatever their walk in life, and whether they visit us one time or live here and use RT regularly or not, it seems to me we got to keep working on that. And I appreciate the Connect card piece of it, but that still has limited access, recognizing the attempts that have been made here to broaden that will go forward. And so I guess my question is, Mr. Chair, and certainly to Brent, what sort of stakeholder outreach? It didn't sound like it went to the MAC from what Helen comments said. Obviously, we got other groups, and it may not be all inclusive, but this is one of those things that I think we're making a positive advancement. But if we're going to continue to work on it and to implement it in different ways that really get to folks who might have an obstacle with the cash, I don't want people that want to pay cash not to be able to do that readily and to get the same opportunity as other folks just because they got a mobile device or have a monthly pass of some sort. So
I think every comment that was made today, I think we've thought of these issues. I think to your point, what we're trying to do is bring out new ways to bring transfers into the system. This is going to be one of those easy ways to bring it into the system, and it's kind of moving in our same direction, which is go to electronic forms of collecting fare data and fare payments. So what we're trying to do is we know that issue will exist where people want to load cash onto a card. So I think what we've said is bringing out more outlets. We also have the issue with the Connect card where we don't have machines that will dispense Connect cards. So we're working with SACOG on that very topic, because that could be another way where people would have that ability, is if right now if you go to our light rail stations and you'd want a Connect card, you wouldn't be able to have it dispensed from the machine. So we're looking at some options for refurbishing our Scheiden-Bachmann machines, those big silver machines that you put the cash into and it spits out a ticket. It'd be nice if it could spit out a Connect card, but you'd still put cash into that. So that would be another way that people could use cash to get a Connect card and then have that benefit. We're looking at all kinds of ways, I guess. But there is no perfect solution. I think the biggest thing that we're looking at is, when we looked at this issue, is bringing paper transfers back. It's a tough operational issue. We right now, we do have new fare boxes in the bus system. what we found is that when we bought these new fare boxes, we had paper issued printed tickets that come out of the fare boxes. What was happening is those paper tickets, when they're being cut, they collect dust and they jammed up our fare boxes. So we're having a significant number of fare box issues. And this is just part of the learning curve with the new fare box. We're not the only transit agency that's gone through it. We actually met with AC Transit and some other transit agencies to find out what's going on. So some of these operational issues we don't necessarily bring to the board's attention because they're somewhat minor in the grand scheme of things, but we have to deal with this from an operational standpoint. So we've actually moved away from paper tickets to poly tickets, and that's more expensive from that standpoint. So you have a lot of operational issues with buying ticket stock, the cost of the ticket stock, the inventory management, the issues surrounding tickets being handed to other individuals, the impact on fares. So when we're trying to do this, we're trying to bring a solution where we could improve ridership, make some substantial gains, but not do it at a cost where fare revenues completely dip as well. So there's no perfect answer to your question.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just one other follow-on question, Mr. Chair. So, again, having sat on the board the years I have, certainly the discussion why we eliminated the free transfers without any time limitation, I think, in the past, or maybe it was 120 minutes or something that previously. But do we have tangible evidence that's to Russell's comment, but I mean, I guess I just question that you get 180 minutes, and so when I get done riding, I give it to Joe. Here's a ticket, go ride for the next 90 or 120 minutes. I guess I guess I'm trying to get the sense. Sure. How big a problem is that? We're going to give free days for folks,
right?
And maybe that's I'll meet you over there when I get done and we off the bus. I'm going to give you my ticket so you can. I mean.
Brent, maybe.
I'm trying to get some sense of how big a problem.
Let me answer direct to Karen's question. To be honest, Barbara and Chris, when we talk, we indeed try to say completely free transfer, no limitation. Barbara, you were right. You will not misunderstood us. It's later on we changed our mind. The reason we changed our mind is what Brandon just mentioned, and lots of operational issues here, and also like earlier I talked about, this may be just 5 or 10% of our riders, affect only that small portion of the riders, and we would like to say in next 6 months to say what type of impact that will be if we eventually get all those 5-10% on board. So give us a little bit of time. Let us analyze those more details and bring some recommendations. And also, we do not know what exactly the impact was before when we remove the free transfer. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And I want to acknowledge 3 artists, 3 ambassadors. Jeff, Barbara, and Russell. Even though 3 of you take lots of time to talk, but we'll welcome your ideas, your recommendations, and we always appreciate that.
Thank you, Henry. Any other questions, comments for Brent? All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So I would move the 2 staff recommendations, but with the addition of trying to get a vendor at the Sacramento Valley Station.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and second that motion. So with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 100 votes.
Okay, that it?
That's it.
Okay, any other comments from directors? So with that, what I'm going to do is, we all received the news last week, lost some of our fellow elected colleagues in the region here, specifically Linda Budge's colleague on the Rancho Cordova City Council, Dan Scoglin, and Steve Miller's colleague on the Citrus Heights City Council, Mel Turner. So with that, those are certainly losses in those communities, but as we all recognize, losses in the region as well. We sat with those folks on a number of regional boards. So, so with that, with the indulgence of my colleagues here, we'll adjourn in memory of those two fine individuals.
Mr. Chair, I know that Citrus Heights and Rancho Cordova both appreciate that. For anyone who's interested, I would tell you that the services for Dan are Thursday morning at 10 o'clock at Sun River Church.
Thank you, Linda.
And we'll have a memorial for Mel Turner at the Citrus Heights Community Center on Saturday, May 13th at 11.
Okay, and if you both could make sure that that gets distributed to all of us via email.
Happy to.
All right, great. Thank you both, and again, sorry for your loss.